Nation.
Well, hello, Nathan. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
I'm
Hello,
great.
Stephanie. Hello,
Stephanie's here.
Robert. Great to have you guys with us today.
Absolutely. I see Robert there. Not on camera yet, but there he is. There he is. Oh, Stephanie, can we hear you? Let's see.
I hope so.
Yes,
Hello.
we can.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's
Yay, yay,
working.
yay.
It's
It is.
working.
It is. Well, welcome. I know Stephanie's been part of these Impact Nation calls in the past. Robert, we saw you at Ames, which is super fun. So thank you for joining us today. This is episode 4 of our Impact Nation Live. Nathan, what's been going on in your world?
Well, we got news that Frank's flight
Yes.
got delayed. So that's why Frank is not with us. His flight got jumbled around, but we're sad that he can't join us today, but we're gonna cover his content as well. So the big thing for me is last weekend my mom turned 75 and I flew up and surprised her. We have a really big family, so I'm not like the only sibling. It doesn't all end with me, but she wasn't expecting us because we were just there at Christmas. But I flew up, surprised her. She lost her mind, and then we were like, "Oh, I'll go out to the car and get the luggage." And my son Rex, who is almost her birthday twin. He was supposed to be born on her birthday. He's 7 years old. He came with me. And so it was like just a double surprise. And it was awesome. It was a weekend of fun festivities. And so that was what's going on in my world lately, the big news. Matt, how about you?
Well, certainly not as exciting as that, but we are planning some family engagements, if you will. So my niece and nephew, who are both in their 30s, both just had small children, and we are planning a trip. We were going to bring them here to North Carolina, but instead we're all going to make a venture up to New Hampshire, which is where my nephew lives, and probably sometime in July we're going to do that so we can all meet up and have the two little babies meet each other and just have some good family time since we didn't get together get together over the holidays. So that's what the Family Works is doing for me. Since we have a couple of folks here that may not know each other, Nathan, when we to start this off, I'd love to do a couple of quick introductions if we could, just around the table. So Stephanie, you are a veteran of these calls, so if you could just start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Good. I'm based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My background and how I got connected with Matt and this group is that I spent a little over 20 years working at Dutch Wonderland Family Amusement Park right there. I spent a good portion of my high school and college time working there part-time. And then I was also there full time for 2 years in operations and 10 years in human resources. And then, no, not last year anymore. It was in 2024. I ended up launching my own business as a virtual assistant. So now I help small businesses and solopreneurs get organized and save time by providing remote based administrative assistance. My heart, though, is still with the hospitality industry, and I love being able to connect with folks that are still in this area. I still attend parks, and I still apply all of the like customer service and hospitality mindset aspects, tactics, techniques, best practices with my clients and with people that I work with.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Stephanie. I love the name of your business. I think we've talked about this before, but Servant Heart Virtual Assistant. I love that. I love that. Robert, why don't you say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Yay, we can
We can
hear
hear you.
Robert.
I know I had to sign up and sign back in, but I've been in the industry for what, 15 plus years. I'm the risk manager here at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in sunny, warmer than the East Coast, California. And I always enjoy listening to Matt and Nathan. I've been to several of their sessions at either IAPA or Ames and always come away with a plethora of knowledge. So thank
Well,
you.
we'll make sure that stops today.
Okay.
Would you say you have a plethora?
Plethora of knowledge.
Love it. Three Amigos. Great movie.
Very nice. Very nice. And David is
David, you're on
muted.
mute. We could guess.
We can
We
try to read your
could
lips.
say it for
I'm
you.
not good
Yes.
at sign language either. I'm worse at sign language than I am at actually speaking. So yes, I am David. I work another California kid, just like Robert. I'm down in Southern California at a family entertainment center, Fiesta Village. We're just outside of San Bernardino, and I've been there for about 20, actually next month will be 24 years. So love the kind of the industry that we're in. I don't really know what to call it sometimes. Hospitality, leisure, theme parks, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, just my entire adult life, I've loved being in the industry.
That's awesome. That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
And thank you for being here,
Very
David. I know it's earlier in the morning for you and Robert, so thank you for investing the time. And just to kind of do a quick overview of what these calls are all about. I know Robert's been to our session in Ames, and David and Stephanie I think have been on these calls before. But I think it's always good to kind of revisit why we do this. Nathan and Frank and I got together. Gosh, many months ago now, and really felt like there was an opportunity to create a community for very engaged leaders who wanted to make an impact. And we recognized really quickly that there were three sort of pillars that we were all sort of invested in. Number one being introspection, looking inside of ourselves. Number two being innovation, looking at new ways to do things. And then the last one is inspiration. And so we create these experiences around those three pillars. So we're going to be touching on all those three things today. And this will be interactive. We do the IN thing a lot. So thank you very much for those introductions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nathan as we start talking about introspection, innovation, introspection first and innovation. And then lastly, we'll follow it up with inspiration. Take it away, Nathan.
Yeah, so just to add on to what Matt was saying about where we focus in these calls, and we thought, when we're thinking about helping to encourage leaders become better leaders, you don't get there without people. And so we want to make sure that we are, when it comes to growing, that we look inward. And so that's where the introspection part comes from, and we properly evaluate where are we, do we have some shortcomings, are we missing something where we could be doing better in providing guidance to others or showing up for others in a better way, are we communicating in a way that people receive the message well, are we clear in what we share with others so that they understand the message that we're giving to them. And then it goes into the innovation part where we give you practical exercises that you can bring to life so that you don't have to go home and do the math of like, well, we talked about this and I know I should get better at this, but how do I actually do it with my team? So we provide examples of exercises that you can go and do. And it may not be that it's your exact cup of tea for the exercise. You might be like, oh, yeah, that one I'm not going to use, but on the next episode, wow, they gave me this other exercise. I'm totally going to do it. And then we get into the inspiration part where we also want to provide encouragement to you, because it's the role of a leader is also to figure out how to recharge yourself. Because you're constantly in this state of how do I give? How do I think of others? What can I do to bring others along? You also need to be able to recharge yourself. And so we get to that inspiration part of the show too, to give you kind of that boost, that shot in the arm, to give you a thought to take with you and possibly, let it echo in your mind as you're going through and you're hitting some challenges or you're maybe losing a bit of steam, and hopefully that can fill you up a bit more as well. So that's why we focus on these things in those ways. And the results are personal growth. The results are better relationships with the people around you and creating this community where you open up, you're vulnerable with others, and you're also bringing others along on this journey too. And so that's what we're focused on here. So to start today, we're looking at a couple of different thoughts where it comes to this new year and everybody's talking about new opportunities. You're going to have new team members. You're going to have new opportunities to engage. Everybody also has this energy about them to accept new things and to try new things. And so for our introspection part, when we're taking a look at new things that we could do, we will also want to just not do something new for the sake of doing something new. We want to be careful that we are properly looking inward to our leadership styles, recognizing, well, what are we doing right? What should we keep doing? But then are there elements, are there pieces where we could grow? And so I want to equip you with it's called the 4 Helpful Lists. And this is from an organization called Patterson. They are very, very focused on helping companies and organizations identify areas for growth. And oftentimes you see like a cultural revolution go on within a company that goes through these types of exercises. And I have experienced leading these exercises many times over. I used to work for a company where, as the company was acquiring new companies, I was in charge of company culture to make sure that everybody immediately got engaged. And it wasn't just, hey, these are the things we do around here. Everybody sign up. Find the things you like. It was also, what's on your heart? What do you care about? What do you hope for this company? Like, now you're a part of it. It's not just we're the company, you're the new guy or you're the new gal. Figure out how you fit in yourself. It's eliciting, getting people to provide ideas and actually engage in the culture. And engaging in the culture isn't just participating, it's also having a say so. And so these are the 4 helpful lists. They aren't overly complicated, but they are overly effective. And so we are speaking about a specific topic, and the specific topic is your personal leadership skills. Okay, so you want to frame it up. We're talking about personal leadership skills. And you ask these 4 questions about any specific topic. Again, today we're talking about your leadership skills. You ask the question, what's right? And jot down in that column everything that's right about your leadership skills and where you are. The next question is, what's wrong? So in the second column, you're finding out, hey, what do I believe is wrong about my leadership skills? In the third column, you're asking the question, what's missing? And in the fourth column, what's confused? So again, those 4 questions, they sound oversimplified, but the thing is, that gets us to effective answers. What's right? What's wrong? What's missing? What's confused? So if anybody wants to come off mic and share some pieces that now I know that it's going to be vulnerable because we're going to share a little bit about what's wrong with what we're doing. But you don't get to a state of being able to innovate and grow and try new things. You don't want to throw everything away and just say, let me do everything brand new. You want to identify what's right about what you're doing and keep that going. But then also find opportunities. What's wrong could be something that's totally off. What's missing could just be, you know what? I know I need to do something. I just keep putting it off. What's confused could be, I do these things, but it doesn't really feel, the big word is intentional. And Matt's going to chime in with some intentionality pieces in a bit. So with those 4 questions, I'd love for people to kind of share a little bit of what you're finding in those areas. So let's start with what's right. What are some things that are right with your leadership skills?
David's unmuted. Take it away.
Yeah, David.
I forgot to mute myself.
That's how you get called on, my friend.
All right. What's right? I think if I'm being put on the spot, I would have to say compassion
Okay.
and being able to relate to somebody's experience and then use that as a tool to help.
Okay. Excellent.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Robert or Stephanie, thank you for that, David. Robert, you just unmuted, so take it away.
So much like David, I would say I tend to be an empathetic manager, which is kind of against all the Harvard business rules about, leadership. You're not supposed to care as much. And the thing that I find is by doing that, I seem to get the buy-in from people. They seem like they want to engage, and they feel that I'm not just gonna, you know, I'm not gonna take what they have to heart and then just let it go to the wayside. That I will try to do what I can within my power, or at least I'll get it to the next level. But yeah, I tend to be, my boss tells me sometimes you're too nice, you're a nice guy, and how that can, backfire on you. But for me, I think I know when people are taking advantage and then I use a different technique. But
Mhm.
I find that approaching things that way has gotten me further. It's helped solidify relationships. And then it's actually turned some relationships that weren't so great positive because of that approach. But
I love it. And so just as like me putting my facilitator hat on, I would come in and provide a bit of feedback to that response. Like, okay, well, what's right? You're saying like, you lead with a nice attitude where it, builds relationships. And then under possibly what's wrong, or maybe it would fit under what's missing, maybe it would fit under confused, would be, and probably I'd say under confused, you could say, other leaders see niceness as a deterrent or as a negative. And so there's that confusion there. So maybe that's an opportunity then. You could bubble that up as an overall theme that you would then address to improve your leadership style, which is to have one-on-ones with those leaders that have expressed, hey, I think niceness is showing a sign of weakness. And you say, hey, look, I want you to know that I need to be my authentic true self. I also want you to know that this is a strategy of mine to build relationships and show them your thoughtfulness behind it. So just as an example of how this kind of system works, where it would bubble up different themes that then when we get over to innovation, we'll do an exercise on. So Stephanie, though, Matt, you have something there.
Just real quick on what Robert said, and knowing David as long as I have, I can also say this about what he mentioned as well is that, and Robert, you mentioned this, like when you notice that this is not working, then we can switch tactics. And I'm a firm believer that whenever you have a strength and you overuse it, it can become a weakness. To Nathan's point, so you could say that your empathy is your strength, but that could also be what's missing. In some cases, like in terms of how you handle other situations. So recognizing that is, to Nathan's point, your true authentic self. I'm a firm believer that the more authentic you are, if you care about people and you authentically care about people, that comes across. If you're someone who is more about numbers and efficiency and that kind of thing, and that's who you are authentically, and that will come across also. Not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but again, anytime you have a strength and you overuse it, it can become a weakness. So just recognizing that, and mature leaders do recognize that. So I'm glad you brought that up, Robert, as kind of a point of this is what's right, and that's great. But we also have to look at what happens when that right thing isn't working. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you so much. And Stephanie, you're up next.
Yeah, I thought of three things, I guess. One of them is that I like to try to pre-think or like pre prepare, I guess, myself when you know there's going to be like a leadership interaction, especially if it's maybe like a neutral to negative or like difficult conversation flavored, but trying to take everything I already know about the situation into account and what could possible outcomes be. That way, I'm not solely focused on, well, it had to be this one thing or this one way. So, kind of keeping an open mind about that. Number two is staying curious and asking questions. So instead of trying to bulldoze people with my ideas or my thoughts on things, especially when you're trying to do like brainstorming or you're trying to improve your team, making sure that you're asking questions, open-ended questions, and also recognizing that some of your team members need to know the why behind things in order to, like Robert had mentioned, get buy-in from them. You know, not everyone's going to care about the why. Some people are just going to like see where you're going and get on board. But other folks are going to need to know what is maybe driving a decision or what is driving a move in a certain direction in order for them to get on board and to contribute in a more full way.
I love it. And I also love that you're like, you know, pre-thinking. I love that you're, you know, pre-planning. All of that sort of stuff is really powerful. That shows the intentionality that you have and wanting to show up. And you're exactly right too about the why. The why is so important because you need to, all leaders, one of the biggest things that is lacking in communication is helping people understand why they should do things to a certain degree, like why it's important, that it's so much more than the task. When you look at the bigger picture of what we're trying to provide, especially in the attractions world, where you're trying to provide an exceptional experience for people who are looking for an escape. They're looking for a recharge. I even describe it sometimes where like people are looking for a way to just be welcomed, to be treated nicely, like go to an environment where they're treated well, because it's lacking. You know, I told people the story of like right before the hurricane last year down here in Tampa, and I went into Sam's Club because I needed to get a tire changed out, and I'm waiting by the tire counter, and two customers came in and they weren't watching for each other and they bumped carts, and immediately one lady started yelling at the other lady being like, I know you saw me, and like took a swing at her. And so there is this tension, even among strangers, there's this tension where we are, sometimes we're in environments, and I've seen it in the attractions world. Like I've seen posters in the bathrooms of Dave and Buster's where it says like, please treat our employees with respect. I've seen posters outside of theme park entrances where it's like, hey, remember that our team members are people too. Be patient, be kind, and reminding us all to have this level of treating people well. And so a lot of times we as guests go into a theme park and or an attraction, we want to have that welcoming feeling. And it goes beyond even just like, even from the person who's flipping our burgers, even from the person who hands us our popcorn or scans our ticket, like having joy in their face of like, hey, welcome. I'm so glad you came today. You're immediately starting off on the right foot of feeling like, yes, this is going to be a good day. Yes, I'm among people who are going to be kind and welcoming and care about us having a good time here in their environment. So super, super powerful. So we've talked a bit about the what we do well as leaders, what's right, what we want to keep. Are there any elements that anybody would like to share as an example of something that's wrong or missing or confused?
I'll share something from a confused perspective because part of the way I interpret this, Nathan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is also about alignment. right? Alignment of values. And this is something I'm working consciously on. I don't know that it's confused now, but it is something I have been working on in terms of making sure that I'm aligned from a value perspective with the people that I work with, my clients, people I engage with in sort of these extracurricular things like Impact Nation. And I feel like really I'm well aligned with you and Frank in terms of what we're looking to get out of this. And I know this wouldn't work if we weren't aligned with that. So, working on that non-confusion, I guess, is a way to say that. But also in looking at the clients that I get to work with, I want to be sure that I'm aligned with their desire to have a great experience or great output of the relationship that we have together. I don't want to work with someone who is just trying to check a box, and say,
Totally,
we
yeah.
just want to bring you in and say we did it and, be done with it. That's not what I'm looking to do. So I feel like that's my version of trying to, avoid the confusion of not working with someone who you're not aligned with.
Yeah, that is a very powerful example. And especially too, like from our perspective, Matt, you and I are in similar roles where we're going into organizations and we're providing leadership content, we're providing leadership development and different things like that. And so there does need to be that removal of any confusion or anything like that because they don't know us very well yet. We aren't working with them day in, day out yet. And so to clear that up is super important. And we also have to understand that when it comes to, I love it. I wish Frank was not missing because he has a tremendous example where he even clarifies some things with his people. And I've done it in the past when I've provided speaker coaching, where I tell the people that I'm directing or helping them with their speaking. I say, look, I want to show you an expression that I put on my face when I'm listening. This is me paying attention. So if you ever see me making this face, I'm following along, I'm paying attention, I'm thinking about what you're saying and what I can do to provide you feedback. I am not angry at you. So that I'm not getting in their head and they're like, oh, I don't know how to take him, that expression on his face. And Frank says the same thing. He has a similar thing where he has a sheet that he actually gives all of his team members and said, here are some things that I want you to know about me and my personality so that you don't misinterpret where my heart is. I care about you guys. And so I want you to know that, I speak loudly. And I do too. That's Frank's words, and those are my words. Frank talks about some other things that he wants them to pay attention to. So even that element of it helps to remove confusion because we can assume, oh, they work with me day in, day out. They know me. They know my leadership style. They know what I want from them. And that's not always the case. So many times in my coaching of leaders or speaking at leadership kickoffs, one of the big things is making sure that it is completely clear what good looks like and what excellent looks like. Because people walk around all the time throwing that phrase around like, oh, common sense is not so common. And my question is always, well, have you stopped and taken the patience to show them? If you're saying common sense is not so common, that means you are identifying that this person doesn't know how to do something. And you believe they should know how to do it. So be a great leader. Be the first person who's been patient enough to slow down and show them how to do it well. And then boost their confidence, build them up, give them more feedback so that they know how to excel at that. Show them where the bars are so that they can excel. And so clarifying that is huge. And so, Matt, you provide such a great point about where you specifically would look to clarify things. And that what I'm sharing is just even a more general approach to that idea of clarifying things.
Awesome.
So I want to move on though.
Really quick though.
Oh yeah, Matt, go.
I jumped in there, but I want to make sure that we have space for David,
Yeah.
Robert, or Stephanie to share as well. David, you've unmuted again, whether you wanted to or not. So take
It
it
was
away.
intentional. It was intentional this time.
It was capital I-N intentional.
Yes.
Love it.
I want to tell Nathan to get out of my head.
What do you mean, David?
It's a
Help me
scary place to be.
understand
I can
more.
tell you that for sure.
Yeah. We've had a few sessions with Matt. I think what you're saying about the response, a lot of times what the feedback I get is the response that I give is or can be misinterpreted in the interest that I have. So I would say for me that what's wrong is how I respond, not necessarily how I feel about the situation or how I want to approach the situation. It is truly how that response is measured by the other person.
Mm, mm. Well, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I'm sorry to be in your head.
And that common sense thing is a conversation that goes on in my head all day long.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
What is common sense and what is they just haven't been taught or shown? And
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Also,
Well-
we think about like we all have different experiences.
Right.
Right?
What
The
is
person
common?
who grows up with a dad who shows them how to fix cars, it's common sense to know, like, oh yeah, you don't like, you need to make sure you check your oil. Yeah, it's common sense that you check the washer fluid before you go on a long trip. They know what a bald tire looks like and they know not to drive on it. Like even those simplest things, you know?
Yeah. I think it's all based on your experience. You know, what is
it needs
quote
to be
unquote
called
common.
experience sense versus common sense.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Hey,
Right.
Nathan, this is
Yeah,
Robert. I have a
Robert.
question. I have a question for you, Nathan. So a lot of times, I'm asked to help mentor our new MODs and go through training. And I find myself several times telling the trainee that a lot of the guest service issues can be resolved using common sense.
Mm.
So that's assuming after hearing what you just said. So here's my question. How do you teach common sense?
Oh, that's so good. It's that any time that you encounter that you want to like gut react with that phrase, then you take the time to teach them. But I think too, something that you're hitting on is not just the realm of common sense, but also a gut reaction. And what I mean by that is we also have many experiences in our lives that help us to cultivate our conscience on what is right and how to treat others well. And so sometimes we do need to equip people to trust their gut and test them on it. Not in a mean way, not in a like you have to prove yourself way, but just say, let me give you an example of a situation that could come up, and I want you to respond not with what you think I want to hear. I want you to respond from your gut instincts how you would want to take care of this situation in your shoes.
Yeah.
And then hearing from them on that, noticing what could be right in that situation, meaning there are certain things like some people's gut reaction might be like, well, I want to give them an annual season pass for their whole family at no charge and put them up in the hotel for free. And you're like, well, that's not right. Like, we can't just give everything away. However, your gut is right that you want to do something for them. And so here are the tools that we offer to you that you have freedom to select from in order to accomplish your gut reaction of providing a better experience for them or a corrected experience for them. And so you're establishing where their freedom is. You're establishing what tools are available to them to act upon. those sorts of things. Robert, does that kind of jive
Yeah.
with along what you're thinking?
Yeah, that helps. I mean, actually, what I was thinking is it really gets down to that person's management style. So here's an example. Some are black and white. I mean, and a lot of what MODs deal with is gray. So maybe instead of saying common sense, I could say, here's some tools that you can look at in lieu of this to maybe de-escalate a situation that if you remain black and white, it's either going to escalate to executive level, another, negative comment card and stuff, where it's easy to say common sense, but maybe they don't understand that because they're used to managing a certain way. So yeah, I think that helps a lot. Thank you.
And I wanted to add on something, and then I want to get to Stephanie's comment that you just put in the chat because I think that's great. Robert, I think that gives you an opportunity when you say common sense to define what that action is, right? I think the gut reaction that Nathan's talking about is absolutely on point, and the way you're talking about it in terms of the black and white and the gray is a great spot. You can also say, now in your mind, when you say common sense, what does that mean? What action are you thinking of? And then define that. Instead of saying common sense, let's talk about a specific scenario, in defining that for that particular situation. So, did you have something else, Robert?
No, I think that helped. I mean, in a way, it kind of extends more of the coaching, mentoring instead of saying, well, you should have common sense, which basically shuts it down. And then maybe they're going to be afraid to make a decision. We don't want that. So thank you. I appreciate that insight.
Of course. Now, Stephanie, you just put something great in the chat. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, Robert, you're making my human resources heart like blossom right now because this is all things that very typically, human resources might have a hand in or have some insight into because the core of our work is understanding and working with humans, whether it's our own teams or whether it's our guests. But to your point about training new MODs is that I was commonly an MOD trainer as well, just because I had that type of personality and people found it very easy to work with me, but giving them a foundation to start from, not that they are locked in, these are the only things you can ever do and you can never change, but giving them something to start with to develop that common sense. You could also think of common sense as your shared culture. It's what everybody has informally or formally agreed upon that your location or your team wants to project what you value and what you want to be providing to guests. So like from a very specific standpoint, I think it's great that you get to interact with those folks and that you get to be such a touch point for them. And kudos to you for thinking about how you can make that experience better for them and ultimately for your team and your guests. Another thing that kind of goes along with what we were saying with common sense and have they trained or learned is getting away from, well, I already told them that. Yes, you might have told them that in the middle of orientation 5 months ago. And it's common in teaching, and I forget what the exact statistic is, but what is it? Like being a leader is 80% repetition and like 20% inspiration or something like that. Like, yes, there are some things and certain people that you're going to need to repeat things. They're not trying to be stubborn. They're not trying to be bullheaded about things. They just honestly need reminders, or they just need to hear it more frequently for it to soak in. And that's something that I work with, like our younger managers, our like young adult supervisors, when they would get frustrated, like, I already told them this. And I'm like, well, but when did you tell them? And would it honestly cost you more than 5 or 10 seconds to remind them, like to say it again and not take it personally?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I believe the stat is we forget 90% of what we learn within 3 hours of learning it. And that isn't that we're broken. It's how our minds are designed to work. We have to accurately accept the information that it and assimilate it, organize it, and say what's important that I must remember. And then our brain is like, I'm going to forget everything else as a favor to you, because we can't possibly remember everything. The average is we hear 150,000 to 200,000 words per week. If we memorized all those verbatim, we would be just in information overload, and we would have no capacity in our mind to actually make decisions or make choices because we'd be too active on trying to remember everything. And so it is how we're supposed to work. And so not to take it out on people if they didn't remember, but to recognize, like, did I emphasize it enough? Have I showcased that this is that important, that we do cling to it? Like, this is a key value in our culture. So we spent some time looking at this idea of being introspective on our leadership skills, and great discussion. Thank you so much for everybody participating in it. I want us to move into the innovation portion of it. And this is just going to be a quick snapshot, and this will be a go and do. And so we won't really get into much discussion right now, just for time's sake, because I know we want to get to our inspiration portion too, and we don't want to run out of time. So here is the innovation part from this. When you have filled out your whole chart of what's right, what's wrong, what's missing, what's confused, and you start to see themes bubbling up, you're like, oh, I get this portion of it right, but this portion of it I find is wrong, or this portion over here is confused, and it all stems in this one subject area, or it all stems from this one skill set. I want you then to think through, and this is the innovation part, this is the exercise. Think through then, what is your goal? Like, what do you want to be new or added or changed or tweaked about your leadership skills, about your leadership style? But don't stop there. Don't just write the goal of, like, I want to be a better communicator. Cool. That is great to want to be a better communicator, as an example. What you have to do then is state, what are the regular behaviors I must do in order to be that? And so it's an imagination exercise. I've heard somebody talk about this before, that as human beings, we have this bizarre ability where if I were to ask you to sing the highest note that you can sing, you all would sing a high note. And then if I said, okay, great, now I want you to imagine the world's best opera singer, and pretend you are the world's best opera singer, and now imitate the world's best opera singer singing a high note. 100% of the time, people can achieve a higher note. And so what I want you to do is imagine you as, that goal. State it. I am a better communicator. What are the behaviors that make that true? How often do you need to participate in those behaviors to make it true? And I'll give you a silly example. A while ago, I was really wanting to get healthier. And so rather than just have the goal of lose 20 pounds, I also put in the behavior markers that I was going to commit to and also celebrate in smaller quantities. So I still have the Post-it notes up here, and I'm going to pull it down to show you that I am this ridiculous, but also it was so helpful. This is my Post-it note about drinking water, and the behavior marker is daily. And so this is what I gave myself. I would be awarded diamond level status if I drank 6 glasses of water by 5 p.m. So in my working day, I would only get gold status if I did 3 glasses of water, and I'd have silver status if I only drank 1 glass of water with my vitamins. So that is what I'm talking about, is like giving yourself the prescribed behaviors that you are committing to accomplish. And then, as the Atomic Habits principles talk about, is okay, let's say I only got silver one day. Well, what am I doing the next day? Trying to get right back on the horse to achieve that diamond status the next day. Not allowing too many days to go by where I don't get it back on track. Do not let it just fall to the wayside, because then instead of good habits forming, I form the bad habits again. I reinforce the bad habits. So just a quick example. So the innovation portion today is go and do. Set your goals based on the themes that you see bubble up from your 4 helpful questions, and then also write out your behaviors. What are you committing to? So from there, let's jump over though to inspiration. Matt, you have the assignment of inspiring us today.
I do, and I feel like you've already sort of set the stage for inspiration with your gold and silver and platinum and diamond level achievement. And I love Stephanie's contribution there, talking about true hospitality mentality when you're looking at those names. And I was really looking at this inspiration piece as something that I certainly learned as I was growing as a leader. In order to be a better leader, you have to take risks. And if you've been on these calls before, you know that this is typically where in our inspiration portion, we will share a quote and get people's insight. This time though, I have a quick little story that I want to share instead of a quote, where this to me is a story that I think of very, very often when I'm thinking about doing something new or doing something different or doing something that I haven't done before. When I think about what's right with what I'm doing, what's wrong, what's maybe not aligned. And it absolutely has to do with the time when I was working at Valley Fair in Minnesota. And one of the jobs that I had, one of the areas that I was overseeing was the admissions department. So I would hire the ticket takers and the ticket sellers and the people in guest services and the season pass office. And one day HR contacted me and they said, "We've got somebody here for an interview. This is kind of a special case." And I said, "Okay, this young lady is wanting to interview for a ticket taking position, but there's some things you should know before you meet her for the interview. She's got cerebral palsy. She's got limited use of her hands. She's confined to a wheelchair, and she's going to need a job coach with her 24/7 when she's working." And my first thought was, well, this isn't going to work. Like, there's no way I could have this person, taking tickets up at the front gate. There's manual dexterity that we have to be concerned with. You've got to stand up behind the podium as people are coming in. But so that was my first thought, and then I thought, well, I've got to kind of see this through. So I said, okay, let's send her back and we'll interview her. Well, as soon as she came into my office, and this goes back to something Nathan said earlier on the call, the smile that she had was just amazing. It was absolutely, and I get goosebumps talking about it right now. It was absolutely the smile that I wanted people to experience when they came into the park. And so we interviewed, she was relatively verbal, so I could talk to her. Her job coach was there already. So, again, I just said, no matter what these limitations are, that's the face that I want people to see when they come in. So we ended up hiring her. Her name is Nikki. She had, some modifications that we had to make in terms of her job. So instead of ripping the tickets as we did back then, because of her limited use of her hands, she would just kind of put a little tear into it. And we had a little shoebox that we gave her, and she could just drop them into the shoebox, and that was fine. Well, what we noticed was her line was getting really long, as the ticket taking line. And we would try to bring people out and say, hey, there's a shorter line over here. And they were like, no, we want to see Nikki. We want to say hello to Nikki. And again, it kind of makes me tear up just thinking about it.
I'm getting joked up about it.
I know.
That's
and
awesome.
So we would let them stay in line if they wanted to. What was so cool is people would come up and they would say, hi, Nikki. And they would, they would greet her. And some people even tore their own ticket and put it in the bin, and she would laugh. And it was just such a wonderful outcome to, this original feeling of there's too many limitations that we can't make this work. But again, when you look at the big picture, when you look at the things that really, really matter, Nikki had it, tenfold. So that's my inspiration story about doing something that was a little outside my comfort zone, something that, made me grow as a leader, because now I look at those situations very, very differently ever since then. So love to hear anybody's thoughts or feedback about that particular inspirational story.
Sounds like you were the nice manager that gave somebody an opportunity. And it just solidifies what I was thinking. A lot of times you would say, we're not interested or there's no opportunity. I have a similar story. So I volunteer at my church food bank. And when I was a newbie, someone that had been there knew how to put things in a certain way. So I got trained by this person. And I mean, if I did anything the least bit wrong, I got corrected immediately. Well, lo and behold, I found out that he had been in a pretty severe car accident and had been on disability for a while. He loved cooking, but he was looking for a job and nobody would hire him. Well, me working at the boardwalk, I happened to think, I wonder if there's any way we could possibly fit Mario into a position here. So I talked to my HR department. They interviewed him, and guess what? Mario got hired. He has been working for 2.5 years. He works in our food prep kitchen behind the scenes, but he loves what he does. He's not out facing guests. He's putting together sandwich and salad trays and stuff. But guess what? He thanked me for letting him get back to what he was passionate about. So there again, it's just an example where some people may think, no, there's no option. I was able to just I heard what his likes were. I knew what his situation was, and I knew we, the employer, would work with that. So it was a win-win. So thanks for sharing, Matt. And yeah, Mario got an opportunity. He's still here, and I'm thankful that the company was willing to work with him. So
Absolutely. And thank you for having the vision to say, hey, we can connect these dots, right? We can say, here's someone in need, and we have an opportunity to fill that. So thank you for that. Stephanie, you had unmuted a minute ago.
Yeah, we experienced that situation many times over, similar situations many times over at Dutch Wonderland. We ended up with 3 or 4 folks with Down syndrome helping out in our food and beverage team, typically part of like the cleanup crew in the bigger locations. So there was just lots of other support for them. But similar comments, not that we did it to get positive comments from our guests, but they would say, like, we appreciate the fact that we see diversity at your park. We appreciate that you give people like this a chance. Our child has Down syndrome too. And, it's very inspiring to see that you're finding ways for them to contribute and fit in. So, it's all about being as open-minded as possible. Will it work out every single time? No, it won't. But it will never work out if you don't give it a shot, if you don't give it a try. We had a young lady who was hearing impaired that wanted to work in our water park. And we were like, oh, how's this going to work? There's music playing. There's, you have to be able to like yell at kids or, communicate loudly and do this and that. We were like, okay, maybe we can like make her flashcards that she can use to like help communicate or to help signal to other employees, this and that. She came and she worked for one day and she was like, I hate this. It doesn't work. And we were like, okay, we tried, So it goes both ways. And either way, I would call those both positive outcomes.
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, and I think what we have to recognize too is like every single person is a bit of a gamble. Like they not everyone is going to be the perfect fit in the culture that you're looking to build. However, you can really amplify and increase the chances of success for everyone if you have your culture well defined, if you have the the buy-in of everybody around them to support everyone to adopt that culture and participate in it. And so like Matt, in your example, you guys were looking like, okay, well, she's a great culture fit. How do we accommodate the role and the tasks so that she can be able to do that? And earlier, Robert, when you brought up the idea of like, sometimes I am like, these, somebody doesn't have common sense and I tell them they need to use common sense. It's like, okay, well, how do you adapt the training that you have provided for them? Stephanie, you brought it up earlier. Oh, I told them once, they should remember it. It's like, well, I told my wife I loved her when we got married. Should I repeat that maybe a time or two over the next 13, 14 years we've been married? Matt's saying no. Okay, thanks, Matt. But that idea of like, if it's important, why aren't we talking about it? If it's important, why aren't we happy to engage on it and reinforce it and give people another opportunity to excel at it? Matt saw the expression on Nikki's face and said, I want everybody coming in the park to experience this. And guess what? People lined up and they're like, I want to experience it. I will patiently wait. I don't care if this line takes longer because that is what I want to experience. And so we have to get behind it. And so I am fired up. I am so inspired by that story, Matt, and for Robert and Stephanie, for you sharing also that you see the truth in that come to life from your experiences as well. And so I just am so inspired.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nathan, and thank you, everybody, for your input on that particular story. We've got just a couple of minutes left, and I would just love to hear, we've gone through some great exercises. Nathan provided you some wonderful resources. We had a little story here at the end, and I would just love to hear what's one takeaway that everybody is taking from this particular experience. David, we're going to start with you. Put you on the hot seat again.
Okay, I think I unmuted myself this time. I think the takeaway is just being open to possibilities, being open to engagement, and being open to perceptions and kind of what opportunities there are out there. I didn't get a chance to share in the previous segment, but I'm sure we've all interviewed people who are introverts and don't necessarily have an outgoing personality that is on the surface, and you wonder how are they ever going to be who we see as an attendant or as an engaged person. But then they pull it out, they come up with it somehow. And I think just as important as the stories you guys shared is that person who's an introvert that says, you know what, I like this environment. I may not express the way that the traditional employee would for this environment, but I really enjoy it and I want to be part of it. And then somehow they pull it together. I mean, I think we've all had those experiences as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, David. Stephanie.
Just reiterating the concept that setting goals and seeing yourself as a future success is important, and tying it to behaviors and actions that you're going to take over and over.
Love it. Love it. And Robert.
Short and sweet. Nathan said it. Go and do. That's what I plan on doing. I'm going to go and do.
That's right. That's a great way to kind of end our time together today. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Watch your email and your social media for more Impact Nation events in the future, and we will see you all very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Take care.
Everybody with you today.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nation. Impact Nation.